Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. I literally still cannot believe what I've just seen, but the Bulls have beaten the Stormers 34 points to 29. Jano Augustus, in diving for the winning try, well over 80 minutes, knocks the ball on, loses the ball in possession, right next to the poles, and so what should have been a 36-34 victory for the Stormers ends in defeat. It was incredible. I do not actually understand how he managed to do that. But what an incredible game. Not necessarily the most clinical, the most clean, the most, the quality of rugby was all right. It wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't brilliant. But it was a close game. It was a really, really watchable game. And the Stormers had like 3-4 opportunities right at the end to go and win a game, which I think they probably should have won on the balance. Because I thought the Bulls were really poor, to be honest. And Jono Augustus just completely stuffs it up by dropping the ball over the line. It was quite sensational. I mean, he went over and the referee awarded the try, and all the Bulls players couldn't believe it because they were saying, knock on, knock on. And then you go and look at the replay. It was horrendous. But, before we break the game down, please do subscribe to the channel. Smash a like on the video if you think that it might be the worst thing we'll see in 2021 in terms of on the rugby field, because I think that was horrific, to be brutally honest. So a very interesting game, and a game in the first half where the Stormers, after being, starting really poorly. I mean, the Bulls Richard Creel ran in the try in the fifth minute. And so it was the perfect start for the Bulls, the worst start for the Stormers. However, after that, momentum just completely switched. And all of a sudden, the Stormers were all over the Bulls, with the Bulls conceding 9 penalties. And at 26 minutes, the Bulls conceded 9 penalties, and Stormers were yet to concede a penalty. And Jake White said in his interview in about 60 minutes, he said, we started off well and then decided to give away 9 penalties and 9 unanswered penalties. And that was the case. And that's what allowed the Stormers to suddenly open up a 27 lead because, Leon Lanzas with the brace, they started turning things up. And I think Damian Willemse, that first half, was a perfect example of just why he should be playing at full back. Having that freedom to sort of float in and around where he wants to, being able to identify space, slot in as a first receiver when he wants to, be able to counter from the back. He was brilliant in the first half. Really, really good performance from Damian Willemse. And I think that kind of just showed that if the Stormers need one thing, they probably need a flyover. I thought Cade Volato was quite good. He kicked quite nicely. But, it's very, very big to try and back somebody that young when you still got somebody like Damian Willemse finding his way. We've got Warwick Gelant coming back, which will complement the selections for the Stormers. Complicated. But I thought Damian Willemse was very good at full back, and I thought that the Stormers were pretty good, and their pack was very impressive. We spoke in the preview about how the Bulls pack looked very strong. And especially for me, the biggest thing was Trevor Nyakane not starting. You suddenly had a World Cup winning tight head who didn't start, and instead you had Jacques van Rooyen who started at tight head, and that just didn't work. Sazi Sandi was replaced in the lineup by Lee Mazabuka, and he was brilliant. And the Stormers completely outmuscled the Bulls, which is very sort of unexpected. And I think that suddenly gave them the platform. Leon Lanzas running in 2 tries, Ricketts Pretorius finding a lot of space. The Stormers were all over the Bulls, and it could have been game done. The second half, however, the Bulls went back to basics. They kept it tight, they kept it physical, they targeted set pieces. The set piece did get a bit better. Their lineouts were a bit 50-50 across the evening, but generally were pretty solid. And when they started getting tight and started going back to their sort of origins, their roots, what they're known for, that physicality, they started to claw their way back into the game. And then the Stormers had a bit of a last sort of resilient. But there were some passages of play where we literally was end to end. I mean, we saw a brilliant run by Leon Lanzas and I think it was Ricketts Pretorius down the right. And then literally Stefan Gans then countered completely. And then we saw a brilliant run by Cornel Hendricks, who we speak about this every time. I tell you, he must be pushing for box selection. The way he is playing at inside centre, I don't think there's not a better inside centre in the country. You got, Damien Delindi overseas. Probably the only person right now for me is actually going to keep Cornel Hendricks out that box team at the moment. If he keeps playing like this, he has to be close to a call-up. He's been brilliant. Richard Creel looked pretty good on the attack for the Bulls, and I thought that Zach Berger had a decent debut. It's always difficult to assess the entire performance because it was very disjointed. And Jake White nailed it on the head where he said you can see these players don't play with each other often. It did look like chemistry wasn't quite there for both sides. Whilst there were a combination of big players, and I think, you look at Stormers, you probably expected them to be a bit more cohesive, which they were for the last part of the game. it was a side that has played more together. You know, Salman Murat, David Mayhazen, Marcel Tienhazen, Joan Augustus, Ernst and Rain, they were all playing during the Super Rugby Unlocked. And in the backline of, De Wet, Volta, Leon Zas, Rick Torres, Ruan Nel, Edwin van der Merwe, Damien Phillips. So they played a reasonable amount of rugby together. And they did look more cohesive than the Bulls. You can see I was still trying to sort of find their way. But there were some good individual moments. And I thought Chris Smith was, again, quite a decent game for him. I thought Ruan Okia was quite solid as well. Marco van Staden was absolutely everywhere, as he always is. He's going to be a huge loss. And the Bulls, they've got Master Katsir coming in, so they probably might not miss him as much as we might think. But he is definitely going to be a big loss because they're going to have to try and look. I mean, he's a very unique player. He's so good on the ground. The Bulls are probably not going to have that as much, and they're going to probably look to someone like Dwayne Vermeulen to try and win a few more turnovers and stuff like that between him, Miles Katsir. If they're going to go with an Albert Lowe, Arno Buerta, you need to find someone who's going to be a fetcher because that's the work that Marco van Staden does on the ground is unparalleled. But overall, I thought it was a very interesting game, and just in terms of how close it was, probably could expect a bit better quality, and I think we will start seeing that because we are starting to see better sides coming through. We are starting to still see probably better rugby, even if it is a little bit disjointed. But this is always all about preparation, and that was a big moment this week today in terms of just players getting minutes under the belt. Lots of players suffering throughout the day with cramp and fitness, which is what they want. The whole point is to try and get a really grueling preseason in where these players can get up to full fitness, where they can ensure that when the Rainbow Cup comes, when the British and Irish Lions come, that they are fit enough to take the field and compete across the various fronts and stuff like that. Let me know what you thought of the game down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. My name is Steven, and I will chat to you very soon.